Hey guys, so this is our first video. Um, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you're watching this. Couple of things I just want to stress to you guys again. Remember, everything is going to be through Schoology. Make sure that you're going into there. I don't have anything in these folders quite yet as I'm making this video, but as you're watching it, there'll be stuff in there. Make sure that you are asking me questions. Please, please, please communicate with me. Do not just sit back and feel like you have no clue what's going on. Please communicate with me, talk to me, email me, Schoology message me, Microsoft Teams, whatever it may be. But communicate with me. All right. Okay. So the first thing we're going to go over today is we are going to look at uh, uh, factoring by grouping, which we did on Friday, the 13th. So if you weren't there Friday or you forget, I'm going to go over it with you here first, and then I'm going to give you, this will be your actual worksheet that you'll be working on. My suggestion to you would be to either print it out if you have that capability. If not, then I would just write down the problems on a piece of paper and then work it out. And you can take a picture of it and submit it to me. You can either submit the picture, or you can use the app Cam Scanner, which will scan it and make it a PDF, or whatever other ways you can think of that you can upload it. But whatever you do, make sure that you know what you're doing or how to get it to me. Please do not email it. Make that a last resort. Everything should be submitted through Schoology. All right. Okay. So number one, first thing we need to do is look at all three of our terms that we have here. Is there anything that I can divide all three of those terms by? There is not. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at just the first two. We're going to group the first two together and the second two together. So on the first two, what can I factor out of both of 21 and 7? Okay, so we can factor out a 7, and then if we look at our x's, we can factor out x squared. So we're going to factor out 7x squared. So then I would be left with 3x minus 1. All right, so then over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and bring down this negative. What can I factor out of 18x and 6? Well, I can factor out a 6. So remember, if I'm factoring out a negative 6 out of negative 18, this becomes a positive 3x. And then if I'm factoring a negative or dividing a positive 6 with a negative 6, then that's going to be a negative 1. Remember what we said on Friday, we want these two things that are in parentheses to completely match. Everything, signs, everything. So I'm going to take what they have in common, so 3x minus 1, and then I'm going to take my leftovers, which is the 7x squared minus 6, and those are my two sets of parentheses, and that is factored completely. So that's it. That's your answer right there. All right. Okay, look at number 2. On number 2, if we look at each coefficient here, notice that we have 25, 20, 175, and 140. What can we divide all of those things by first? And that would be 5. So we're going to factor out a GCF to begin with. So we're going to factor out a 5. So then I'm left with 5n cubed plus 4n squared minus, so if I have $1.75, how many, I guess, nickels go into $1.75. So all you're going to do is take 175 and divide that by 5. That gives me 35. So 35n. And then 140 divided by 5 is going to give me 28. Okay. All right. So now we're going to take our first two terms here. We're going to do our same process. This 5 out here on the outside, it's just going to hang out there. We don't have to do anything with it. It's just going to stay on the outside. I'm going to focus inside the parentheses now. So out of 5n cubed plus 4n squared, I can take out an n squared. So I'm left with 5n plus 4. And then if I'm looking at the second two terms, I'm going to go ahead and bring down that negative, and then out of 35 and 28, I can factor out a 7. So I'm going to take out 7. Now remember, this is now a negative 7, so negative 35 divided by negative 7 is going to give me 5n, and then negative 28 divided by negative 7 is going to give me a positive 4. Again, what's in our parentheses matches, which is exactly what we wanted. So we have 5n plus 4, and then over here we have our leftovers, so n squared minus 7. And then don't forget in the very end, all we have to do is bring down that 5. So your final answer is this right here, okay? So the first thing you need to do is check to see if you can divide everything by a certain number to begin with. So factor out a GCF. So if you look at number 3, you can factor something out of that. If you look at number 4, number 5, number 6. So make sure you pay attention to that. Factor out a GCF first if you need to, okay? So let's try number 3, and then if you have any questions on this, obviously, message me or tell me. All right, so if I look at all these terms, I can divide everything by 2. So I'm going to factor out a 2 to begin with. So if I factor out a 2, I'm left with a cubed minus 7a squared minus 5a plus 35. So again, this 2 on the outside is just going to hang out on the outside the whole time. It'll eventually come back to the inside. Or I'm sorry, it will always say on the outside, but in the end, on the last part of the problem, we'll put it back. So if I look at my first 2, I can factor out a squared. So I'm left with a minus 7. Bring down the negative. Out of 5 and 35, I can factor out 5. Leaves me with a minus 7. So a minus 7 is the first part of my answer, and then a squared minus 5. And then again, all we're going to do is bring down that 2. So this is my final answer. Okay. All right. I would like for you to complete the rest of these. So there's 18 problems and I did 3 of them. So you have 15 problems to complete. Again, if you're having problems or have questions or whatever, please, please, please message me. I hope you guys have a wonderful day and talk to you guys later or I guess, yeah, talk to you guys later.